If you're ever walking and hear a sound behind you, look up, for it might be the Gashadokuru. The Gashadokuru are skeleton giants who walk around in the middle of the night. If they see a human, they will quietly walk up behind them, bite off their head, and drink their spraying blood. Soldiers that die on the field and people that die of starvation usually do not have their final rites read. In Japanese culture, that means that their soul cannot pass on and they're reborn as a hungry ghost. When the bones of hundreds of those souls gather together, they become the skeleton monster known as Gashadokuru. If you're a fan of monsters, scary stories, and lore, please support this channel. Thank you guys.
This is a Dybbuk. You might recognize it from this video that surfaced in 2018 of Post Malone touching it inside of Zak Bagans' Haunted Museum, and most of us know that didn't end well. But what is a Dybbuk, and why is it considered the most haunted item in the world? The Dybbuk is a wine box that was purchased in 2001 by an American man at an estate sale in Spain. When the man learned that the item was a family heirloom, he offered to return it to the family, but they insisted that he keep it. The box was purchased by the family's grandmother after the Holocaust had ended, but it sat unopened inside of her sewing room because the grandmother was convinced a Dybbuk was inside of it. Dybbuk is a demon that has the ability to possess different items. When the American man brought the box home, he opened it up, and this is what was inside. Inside the box, there were 2 locks of hair, a single candle holder, 2 pennies from the 1920s, and a small statue with the Hebrew word peace inscribed. Like for part 2. These are the catacombs in Paris. In the 17th century, the locals began to get sick. They believed that it was possible they were getting sick from the drinking water. And because a lot of the bodies weren't buried properly, the fluids from the decomposing bodies started to seep into the water supply and was causing disease among the people who were drinking it. So they rallied together to dig the bodies up from the cemetery, but they had to have somewhere to put them, right? That's when they decided to put 6 to 7 million bodies in these tunnels underneath the city streets. These tunnels run over 200 miles long. The exact number is not known because most of it is uncharted territory. You can visit the catacombs today, but you must go with an experienced guide. It's very easy to get lost. Just a few years ago, 2 friends went into the catacombs and went missing for 3 days. They also made a pretty good horror movie about the catacombs back in 2014 if you want to check it out. Make sure to like and follow for more. You may have heard this story, the babysitter and the man upstairs. A babysitter receives a phone call from a mysterious man asking her this.
Have you checked the children?
She then calls police and this is what happens.
Stop calling me, you
Jill, it's the police. We traced the call. It's coming from inside the house.
This is an urban legend that's actually based on a true story, but unfortunately it doesn't end the same. On March 8, 1950, 13-year-old Jeanette Chrisman babysits for the Romax family in a small town just outside of Columbia, Missouri. Before leaving, Mr. Romax shows Jeanette how to load and fire a shotgun in case she needs it. That night, police receive a phone call. On the other end is a girl screaming hysterically, and unfortunately they're not able to get an address. And at 1:30 in the morning, the Romax return home and find Jeanette's lifeless body in their living room. She had been raped and strangled with a cord, but the child she was babysitting was untouched. And this case is still unsolved. This is the Devil's Rocking Chair, and it's one of the most haunted items in the world. The chair used to belong to Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are famous demonologists. They performed an exorcism on a man named David Glatzel, and David sat in the chair during the exorcism. The demon left David's body and went on to possess a man named Arn Johnson. Arn then went on to kill his landlord. Just a few hours before Lorraine Warren's death, the chair was sold to Zak Bagans and has since been displayed in his museum. Zak had to close the exhibit down a couple years ago because so many visitors were being affected. He also claimed that unexplainable paranormal activity was happening in his own home, and it all started happening after he took ownership of the Devil's Rocking Chair. If you get scared easily, this is your warning to swipe away from this video. This is La Lechuza. La Lechuza is a well-known urban legend within the Hispanic community. And translated to English, it means the owl. Legend has it that a witch was exposed for practicing devil's magic. Once the townspeople found out, they murdered her. But that wasn't the end of her. Some believe she came back as a shapeshifter. She can be seen as a normal woman through the day and a bird with a woman's face at night. She's described as being up to 7 feet tall. with a wingspan of 15 feet. And of course, this terrifying owl lady only comes out at night. She's especially known for luring people in by posing as a crying baby. And once she gets Good Samaritans to leave their home, she swoops them away. She whistles outside your window, and legend has it, if you try to kill her, you'll likely end up dead yourself. Go to my YouTube channel to see the full video. The link is in my bio, and make sure to follow for more. This is Mona Fandy. Mona always wanted to be a pop star, but when that didn't work out, she turned to witchcraft. Both Mona and her husband started offering their services to many elite customers, and the duo became very successful in this business. That's when the couple was approached by a politician named Mazlan Idris. He wanted help with his campaign. Once Mona and her husband received payment, they invited Mazlan to their home for a black magic cleansing ritual. And with the help of a couple assistants, they told Mazlan to lay down on the floor, close his eyes, and envision money falling from the sky. Then, without warning, the assistant chopped Mazlan's head off with an axe. Mona, her husband, and the assistant then dismembered and skinned his body. And 18 pieces were found on Mona's property in an outbuilding, buried in this storeroom. Some parts of the body were never found, and it was speculated that the trio ate them. While the murder itself is brutal, the creepiest part is the events that happened afterwards. Like and comment for part 2. This is the Chair of Death. It's located at a tavern in England called the Busby Stoop Inn, and it's thought to be incredibly haunted. In 1702, a man named Thomas Busby was convicted of killing his father-in-law. He strangled his father-in-law for sitting in his favorite chair. On his way to the gallows, Thomas asked to stop at the Busby Stoop Inn. When he did, he went inside and put a curse on his favorite chair, claiming that anyone who sat in it would be haunted and would die soon afterwards. The chair remained in the pub for centuries. During World War II, soldiers from a nearby base would dare each other to sit in it. That's when people started to notice that the soldiers who sat in the chair were the ones that never returned home from war. In 1967, 2 Air Force pilots sat in the chair, and on their drive back home they crashed into a tree and both of them died. A roofer who sat in the chair later died from a roof collapsing on him. The pub owner eventually moved it into the basement, but one day a delivery driver sat in the chair. An hour later, he crashed his truck and died. There are many more stories like this. It's now hung 5 feet off the ground so no one can sit in it.